One of the most underrated tools in any language classroom isn't a textbook, an app, or even teacher's feedback. It's the students themselves. Imagine a classroom where learners not only receive feedback from a teacher but also actively give it to each other, where correction becomes collaboration, where growth becomes a shared journey. That's the power of peer feedback. And today, in this episode, we're diving deep into how to train students to help each other effectively. And as I always say, sit down comfortably, just grab yourself a coffee, your tea or cha, and let's get started.
Woo! Let's go!
Let's begin by redefining what feedback really means. Too often, feedback is seen as something that happens to a student rather than with a student. But in the modern language classroom, especially within communicative and collaborative learning frameworks, feedback is a dialogue. It's about helping learners become aware of their progress, strengths, and areas for improvement. And when peers learn to participate in that process, they develop a stronger sense of ownership, agency, and empathy. But before we dive into training strategies, we need to understand why peer feedback is so powerful. When learners give feedback to one another, they're not just helping their classmates, they're reinforcing their own understanding. It's like metacognition in action. When a learner explains why a sentence structure is incorrect or suggests an alternative phrasing, they're actively processing grammar rules, vocabulary, patterns, and pragmatic nuances. And there's something beautifully democratic about it. Peer feedback breaks down the hierarchy of teacher knows all. He's the know-it-all. And turns the classroom into a collaborative community of thinkers. Now, let's talk about the real challenge. Students often feel uncomfortable giving feedback to their peers. They might fear offending someone or being wrong or simply not knowing how to phrase their comments. This is where training becomes essential. Effective peer feedback doesn't happen spontaneously. It must be taught, modeled, and scaffolded. So, how do we train our students to do it right? First, start with the culture. You can't expect meaningful feedback in a classroom that lacks trust. Before anything else, foster a safe environment where mistakes are normalized and seen as part of the learning process. Use phrases like, "we learn by noticing," or "feedback is a gift." Make sure everyone understands that the goal of feedback is not judgment, but growth. Create short, reflective discussions after activities. This one it's really good. How did it feel to receive feedback from a classmate? What kind of comments helped you the most? Or what feedback made you think differently? These reflections train emotional intelligence as much as linguistic awareness. Second, model the process. Show students how to give feedback before expecting them to do it. Use live examples from students' work, with permission obviously, and demonstrate different types of comments. For example, instead of saying "that's wrong," maybe you could say this in this way to make it sound more natural. Instead of "you need to improve your pronunciation," say "your pronunciation is clear, but try stressing the second syllable a bit more." It'll sound even smoother. So, the key is to make feedback constructive, specific, and actionable. You can use the feedback sandwich method as a starting scaffold. First, start with something positive. Second, offer one suggestion for improvement. And third, end with encouragement or affirmation. Over time, as students get more comfortable, they can move beyond formulas to a more natural, reflective dialogue. And the third one, introduce feedback language frames. This is especially helpful for lower level learners. Give them a mini feedback toolkit with sentences starters like, I like how you used. Maybe you could try, or one thing that confused me was, or next time you might want to, or I think it would sound more natural if. These structures give learners linguistic support and emotional confidence. It's not just about what to say, it's about how to say it respectfully and clearly. And fourth, define focus areas. Peer feedback should never be vague. If you ask students to check your partner's essay, most won't know where to begin. Instead, give clear objectives. Focus on verb tenses, focus on topic sentences, focus on pronunciation of final consonants, or focus on transition between ideas. By narrowing the scope, you help students notice more, think critically, and avoid feeling overwhelmed. And fifth, rotate feedback roles. Not all students have the same level of confidence or analytical ability. Some might be stronger writers, others better listeners. By rotating peer feedback tasks, grammar reviewer, vocabulary checker, pronunciation partner, idea organizer, you allow each student to shine in a particular domain. This also reinforces the idea that everyone has something to contribute. Let's go with sixth. Use rubrics and checklists. Peer feedback becomes more objective and less personal when it's guided by criteria. A short, clear checklist can anchor discussions and prevent vague comments like, it's good, or I like it. For example, a speaking feedback checklist might include clear pronunciation, correct use of past tense, natural intonation, and confidence and fluency. As peers tick the boxes, they're not only evaluating others by reinforcing their own self-assessment skills. Seventh, integrate reflection after feedback. After a feedback round, don't just move on. Pause and discuss what was learned. Ask students to write short reflections. What did I learn from my peers' comments? What feedback surprised me? Or what will I try different next time? This step turns feedback into action. Without reflection, feedback stays on paper. With reflection, it becomes transformation. Now, let's acknowledge the elephant in the room. Peer feedback can go wrong. Sometimes students give inaccurate advice. Sometimes they focus on surface level errors rather than meaning. Sometimes they simply say, everything's good, right? That's why teacher monitoring and gradual release are essential. Of course, in early stages, you can review peer comments together as a class. Prize accurate, specific feedback, and gently correct misconceptions. Over time, you can step back as students internalize the process. Remember, peer feedback is not about replacing the teacher, it's about multiplying learning opportunities. And here I want to give you a powerful exercise to train peer feedback skills. Start with blind feedback. Have you heard about it? You just have to remove the names from students' work and let peers comment anonymously using guided prompts. This eliminates personal bias and focuses attention on the task itself. Then, move toward peer feedback, where learners share work directly and discuss comments face to face. Finally, move to collaborative feedback circles, small groups where everyone contributes feedback on one another's work, just like a writer's workshop. By the end, your classroom will resemble a small community of editors, mentors, and learners learning from each other. Peer feedback also nurtures critical thinking. Keep in mind, when students analyze each other's ideas, they learn to see writing and speaking from multiple perspectives. They begin asking questions like, what was the speaker's intention? Or does this word choice fit the tone? And this doesn't just improve their English, it improves their thinking. And you can extend peer feedback beyond the classroom walls too. Online collaborative tools like Google Docs, Padlet, or Flip can facilitate asynchronous feedback exchanges. Students can record short videos or voice notes giving comments to one another. This adds flexibility and allows deeper, more thoughtful responses. Now, imagine a student in China giving pronunciation feedback to a partner in Brazil using short audio clips. That's authentic, global learning at its best. But perhaps, the most beautiful outcome of peer feedback is community. When learners start helping each other, something changes in the atmosphere. Competition fades, empathy grows, the classroom becomes a place where every learner feels seen and valued. Peer feedback transforms my success into our success. And in a world that often isolates learners behind screens and grades, this collaborative human touch is something truly revolutionary. In the end, training students to give feedback isn't just about improving their English. It's about teaching them how to listen, observe, empathize, and empower others. And maybe, just maybe, that's one of the greatest lessons language education can ever teach. So the next time you see your students giving each other thoughtful, respectful, and insightful feedback, keep in mind, you didn't just teach them a skill. You helped them build a learning culture. Until next time, keep listening, keep growing, and keep lifting each other through language.